What's up, guys? Lawrence and Max here from Vital Worldwide.
How's it going?
Today we're going to talk about air freight speed. This is a question that we get all the time. There's a common expectation that air freight is always super fast, and while it is a lot faster usually than its ocean freight counterpart, it's not always as quickly as people imagine.
Yeah.
Right? And we're going to talk about some of the reasons why air freight is not always same day or next day arrival, and that in some cases it can actually take several weeks depending on where you go, and maybe take longer than some ocean freight shipments in some cases.
Yeah.
Right. One major thing that can affect air freight transit times is where you're going. So we talked about this before, Max, where if we're connecting to a major airport, say if you're going to New York, JFK, if you're going to Shanghai, these really major airports that get tons of flights every day, day in, day out, those are usually going to be, for the most part, direct, and
Yeah.
probably what, same day, if not
one day,
next day,
24 hours
arrival,
yeah,
right? But there will be other cases where if you're going to an airport that's less frequently traveled, what ends up happening is the flight schedules for that airport are much, much less frequent. So that means that you may not have a flight every single day. You may have to wait a couple of days before that plane comes in. And also, you may not have a major airport hub where it gets a lot of direct flights, so it may actually have to connect.
Exactly.
Right, somewhere first. And you had a really, I think you're working on something right now that went to Macau.
Macau, yeah.
Right, and that was not in fact, I think that's where the customer asked you why it was going to take so long.
Yeah, that was the
right?
first question. As soon as we gave them, he advised that we have everything in the airport already and we're gonna ship it and this is the flight. And first question she had was, hey, since this is flying out, why does it take 3 days to get to the destination? And then obviously that's where the connecting flights transshipment come into place, because Macau is not a major airport.
Right.
So this is not a major airport. They have to you go to an airline that's going to that destination first, and that's when their major hub comes in place, and their major hub is the connecting flight. So one flight from origin to the major hub, and then from the major hub to the destination. Obviously that's a 2 to 3 day turnaround time.
I've also had experience where I've shipped to certain ports in Africa, South Africa.
Definitely.
And what ends up happening is there's a couple things. For one, there's less frequent flights, as we covered, but also when you connect to these smaller hubs in those countries that are not as high in volume with air freight,
Yeah.
they have different types of aircraft, and sometimes they can't even carry as much weight on those aircrafts. So they have, and because there's so little aircraft, there's so little flights going to the airport, the connecting hub can actually get overbooked with flights, because so many people are trying to go, but there's only a certain amount of planes, and those planes can only hold a certain amount of weight, so it restricts the amount of flights that can go there. And so even after you arrive, you may still have to wait for 3 flights to go because people were on a waiting list before your cargo gets on that plane. So those are some of the reasons that can certainly affect your flight. When you get a quote from a freight forwarder, you always want to confirm what the transit time is. Don't ever assume that just because it's air freight, it's going to arrive the next day. One thing about flight schedules, you may not hear it if you get quoted from a forwarder, but something industry term, they're going to say days 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which just corresponds to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They just call it by the number for some reason. Very popular airports are going to fly out. They're probably going to have 2 to 3 flights days 1 through 7. So it means if you don't make the flight in the morning, you can make one in the evening.
Daily flights, there's even ones that are every day.
Exactly, and if you miss one at the night, you catch the one in the morning. Whereas less frequently traveled airports they're just going to give you like a schedule where they say it's only days 2 and 5.
Exactly. So
if
your
you
job
miss
to get
2,
there.
you're not just missing 1 day. Now you've basically increased your transit time by 3 or 4 days. And if there's again a wait list or whatever, and you miss that flight, and the next one is also booked, now you're waiting all the way to the next week. That's how a flight, in very rare cases, an air freight shipment could actually take several weeks.
Yeah, definitely.
That's usually what happens, is not that many flights outbound, then you get to a connecting airport, again, another waiting list, and before you know it, 2 weeks have passed, plus all the time to custom clear and everything else. So it's not so much that the carrier or the vehicle being used is slower.
Yeah.
It's a scheduling issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Please scheduling issue, exactly how they transit it.
Yeah, so I think that sums it up pretty well. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and as always, contact Vital Worldwide for any of your shipping needs or questions. We're here to help. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.